In this week's interview with Jade Sonkin, it starts a little different. We don't necessarily jump right into her career background. We start with a vibe and you'll see where it goes from there. But I just love Jade's approach to mindfulness in your career. And what you'll see us unpack is a lot of these topics that don't always come to the surface when we think about our career. It's a lot of resilience and growth, but also addressing fear. And I really love Jade for this. So she is a phenomenal friend, mom, and leader in the learning and development space, as well as a previous marketer. She's currently with L'Oreal Group and doing amazing things for employees to help them unlock potential, leadership, and a whole way of innovative thinking. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Jade and myself on Break Room.
Can you feel the wind against your back? It is time. Sacrifices are made when faced with truth. Fear is the symptom of a change that is needed. I am with you. You are not alone. These wings were made to carry you forward. Allow yourself to free fall into the space beyond. Fly.
That is so powerful. There's so much there.
Yeah. I mean, I really love that because as we think about like fear is this emotion that we inherently fear and don't want. But
Yeah.
if you think about it as like, if I'm feeling fear, maybe that is my internal system telling me that like, oh, okay, there's a change that I need. It's kind of that like our internal radar system being like, hey, there's something that needs to change, like something isn't in alignment, then maybe we could think about fear in a different way and actually be grateful of like, oh, wow, okay, I'm a little scared. Maybe that's a good thing.
It's fear where we've been taught to keep it in the distance a little bit. I remember I was being taught, don't lean into that. And that's where risk is, or that's where uncomfortability is. Speaking of changes, I've known you for years, but what I've never asked you and talked about is this change you've made in your career from you have this amazing background in marketing, e-com, digital media, and then you moved into this space that is quite different. And like that's been a huge transformation and journey. So I'm just curious for you if like has fear jumped up in that transition throughout your career, and like if it has, how have you navigated through it?
Ooh, that's a good question. And the answer is like a resounding yes. Like all through that, I started right after college and it was like during the first recession and it was like there was a fear of like I'm not going to get a job. And so in my mind I wanted to work in like creative, but I ended up getting a job in media planning because that was I was just like I'm not going to get anything. So I just need
So
I need something. And also this idea that, from generations and family belief of being creative, being an artist is not going to pay the bills.
mhm.
So find a good job, get paid, and then like be happy later
Yeah.
was kind of like advice that I got like going into starting my career. And I got to a place where I was doing really well, but I wasn't liking how I was showing up. I had like a lot of anxiety and fear around
Mhm.
like, this isn't what I'm feeling aligned to. But I think at that time I wasn't really as in tuned with like what being in alignment meant. And I didn't really give myself permission to even think that way until I had no other choice. Like my body was physically like, yeah, this is not working. Like you are not not aligned with this work. It wasn't fueling a purpose for me. And then fear came up again where I grew up in LA and living in LA was where I had my media career. And I just had a moment of like, I can't do this anymore, but I don't know what I want to do. And just kind of like, I guess serendipitously, my now husband got a job and it was in New York, and I was like, okay, well, F it. Like I'm just gonna like quit and move to New York from LA with no job. But when we moved to New York, 1 month in, I was like, I need to make money to live. I don't know what I should be doing. And I had more like media agency offers, but there was also like, so the fear of like, just take that because you need a job. But there was also this voice in me that was like, that's still not what I want to be doing. And kind of not listening to that part of the fear to make those choices. And then that brought me to meeting you and working at L'Oreal and finding people that I love. Like, honestly, when I started my job search, I was like, okay, I don't know what I want to do. And so I wrote down, I want to work with people who are driven, who are smart, who feel like family. That's the criteria. That could literally be anywhere. And that could take me into any sort of job. And I found that at L'Oreal. And like, I mean, it's a testament to us to like still like being friends. But I think as we talk about fear in that way, it's not necessarily a bad thing to avoid.
I love what you said. And I don't think we do this enough in our life. Some people wait too long to check in with leaning into the feeling of what you want versus the title or tasks on what you're doing. There's such a difference in your energy over time. So often, professionals come to me and are just like, I need a job. But it's like, wait a minute, what's prompting you for that job? There's some type of push and pull, right? You're not obviously happy in what you're doing. But instead of looking at, I want to be a marketing manager, how do you want to feel? What is that vibe? And in the midst of it, then look, you do find a job, but it's like that initial exercise of checking in on that.
And it's great. I think a lot of what my experiences, and I truly believe like no experience is wasted. So while like in those jobs, like in those moments where I was like, this is not for me, I learned what I didn't want, which is good. And
Yeah.
then I had to figure out, maybe I didn't know the role, because honestly, like, what's the stat? Like 85% of roles are going to be like non-existent or like completely changed in scope in the next like 10 years. The kind of work that puts me in flow and gets me really excited and, gives me energy is going to then put out, when you talk to people on interviews or you talk to just like connections, like, this is what lights me up. This is the kind of work I do. This is how I can contribute and add value to whatever person or project I'm working on. That creates opportunities that didn't exist. Like, I'm in a role now that didn't exist 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I've done that now twice in at roles within like my scope. And I would have never imagined like 10 years ago when I was in LA that like that was possible. Now I'm shouting to the rooftops of like, it is possible. And we have to create new jobs, because the old ways of working, of just like, I need a job to pay my bills, is it's not working anymore. Life is too blurred. And we talk about it all the time. There's not like work Jade and life Jade. It's like there's
It's
only
all one.
one. And and how do we find like fulfillment and peace and joy in all the things that we're doing, because we're so interconnected now.
Okay, I have two different sets of questions, but the first I want to ask is around the skills piece, because this is really interesting. You are a leader at L'Oreal from a learning and development perspective. I'm so curious because you are leading thousands of people in the digital and e-commerce space at a huge beauty company. And we're in this world now. Skills are so quickly changing. How do you develop and even think to develop, people within that niche because things are changing so fast?
So I oversee the curriculum and upskilling for 13,000 plus employees across marketing, digital, data, e-commerce, commerce, people development, performance management. It's interesting. I see it as like we're very siloed in our thinking. If you're like, "Oh, I need to learn a skill for marketing," there are transversal skills that are still really applicable. Being able to think transdisciplinarily, is that a word? In a transdisciplinary way, they're seemingly disparate ideas you can pull together to create new insights. That's not necessarily like a marketing skill, but that is very necessary to be successful in a marketing role. To be able to think critically, to be
Hmm.
able to adapt your communication, all of those kind of transversal or core or leadership skills are really helpful and very functional. So if you are kind of floating and you're like, I don't know, I'm maybe changing disciplines, I think one, like disciplines lines between them are blurring. It's no longer just like marketing, digital, data.
Hmm.
Like you need to know all of them. They're so interconnected. I was at a conference and someone had mentioned it's like no longer like marketing fundamentals. It's actually like business axes fundamentals. Like a marketer still needs to know how to think about their P&L and finance. They need to be able to understand sales. Like there's no longer this just like pillar or silo of skills that you need to be thinking about. So it's like one piece of just like thinking of how skills work. It's like not in a silo. They're very much connected. And then also thinking about if you're looking to shift into a new role, new function, new career, what skills you've created or learned along the way on your journey are going to stay with you. Like if you're still practicing them, like legacy skills are really important. One, to bring into the way that you're working, and then also two, to be talking to your team, your managers, and things like that. Of like, I mean, I think about it all the time. In college, I worked as a server at a restaurant for like many, many years, and I still use a lot of the skills that I learned serving. Like being able to think about multiple tables at the same time and like in different phases and being able to execute and all of those things are still so helpful for me today as a manager
Yeah.
and life, being a mom, like all of those things. So it's like thinking about you're not just starting over and you have to like build all of these skills. Like take a step back and think about, okay, like what skills have I learned? What skills am I practicing? Am I using? Not just at my desk, but in life is really helpful and probably really needed, especially as like roles go away. It's like, cool, let's like just place people and in based on their skills, based on what the role requires versus like you have experience in X, Y, and Z that could be applicable, but maybe not fully.
The foundation of what you're saying is truly the future of where we're going, of not only hiring, but the way we're going to look at an organization of talent and skills. That ability to think like an entrepreneur, to think critically. I also want to go back into what we were kind of talking about again, was this like intuition space of your career and mindset. And that's how obviously we connected so long ago, was just our love for wellness and not keeping this separation of work and life and starting to bring that together. And I think it's so much of how we've connected. You have this kind of new approach of health systems. And I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about what you mean by systems. And I'm just curious of like what that means for you, right? Like, what is that healthy system? How do we work toward it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any one way of a healthy system. And we talked about entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
which I think is so necessary within whether you work at a company or you work for your own company for yourself, because we're pioneering new territory. Like a lot of this is new. And then I also think of it in a way as like intrapreneurship, because I work within a large company.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do I find ways to innovate and experiment with new things within a company? And then when I dive deeper into that, how do I think about systems when it comes to myself? And like the intra part of that, which we were kind of talking about before, is what are the systems I need to feel healthy and resourced and energized and fulfilled and purposeful? Only we can answer that for ourselves. Once I started to think about it consciously, what systems am I playing in? What beliefs am I um, am I allowing to drive my life? We talked about some of the beliefs around I need to work so that I can make money, or I need to be this type of parent. Is that my belief or is that a borrowed belief? And do I still believe that? And give ourselves permission to change it. I love the analogy of the balcony and the dance floor. When we don't have systems in place for us, it could feel like we are on the dance floor in the mosh pit. I have so many priorities, so many things, so many responsibilities, and then when you're in the mosh pit for so long, you're like, I mean, I've been there. It's like that's burnout. You're not being purposeful or intentional with the way I was spending my energy. And so there needs to be a pause and a moment. And unless someone is like pulling you off the dance floor, we need to be thinking about, okay, I need to go up on the balcony. I need to get a drink of water. I needed some fresh air. I need like a moment outside of the dance floor, because we do need to be on the dance floor. That's the system of like actually getting work done. And there are moments where we have to. It's necessary to get up on the balcony so that we can refuel ourselves, take a breath, take a moment, and also look over the balcony and see what's on the dance floor. Like, oh wow, there's the mosh pit, but like maybe this is an area, a white space, an opportunity, or hey, this is an area where I need to untangle something, and then I need to pull myself back up and reassess and look at it again. But unless we have a system in place to say, this is when I know I'm on in the mosh pit for too long. I get frustrated with myself, I get frustrated with other people. So now I know it's like, okay, if that frustration's coming, that's a moment where I'm like, okay, let me pause. Those are the systems, very basic, but very conscious and intentional, that we need to start creating for ourselves.
A lot of professionals that do come to me that are at this pivotal moment of knowing that they're at burnout, they're looking around, they're like, I'm in it. I am not feeling myself. But something is stopping them from making that change. What is your advice for someone in that like is self-aware, but they're holding back from that adjustment?
Again, not easy. And I've been there, I get it. I guess a question that I found really helpful is what's the cost of staying? If you're really like, you're in that like kind of in between and you're like, I know I can't, maybe like I have to leave, but that's scary over there. To also ask like, okay, well, what's the cost of me staying and not leaving? Comparing almost of there's probably going to be a tipping point. For me, it was like, I can't stay in this any longer. The cost of me staying is my health, my relationships, and also just, I think going back to, and we talk about this a lot, is like your values. These are the things that I value, and these are my non negotiables. And to me, health has become one of those, because if we don't have health, then we're not able to do anything. We aren't able to work. We aren't able to help, ourselves or our families or our friends or anyone. So, but there typically is kind of that tipping point where it's like, actually, based on like my values and being in alignment with my integrity and my like non-negotiables, actually the cost is too great. And sometimes that is enough to like kickstart that courage to then kind of take that next step.
Love that. That awareness is super powerful, and I love that so much. Do you have a fear that's holding you back right now? When I sit with you, I'm like, she's got it figured out.
I mean, let me just stop you there. Like, I don't have it all figured out. And yeah, I'm fearful of a lot of things. It's hard to talk about the things that we fear because on top of that is the fear of how people receive that and then the reaction to that. I think another system that we need to build in greater society to break down those silos so that we can get more comfortable with being uncomfortable
Mhm.
and being vulnerable and sharing the things that really connect us, because I think we're more alike than not. I love this quote. I think it was like the CEO of General Motors said, comfort and growth cannot coexist. And I think about that a lot because, yeah, I'm fearful of like, I have a 2.5-year old. I mean, I'm fearful of like, oh my gosh, is that thing that I just did, like, is he going to be talking about that in therapy? Like when he's like, when he's older, like, oh. And also, like, there's a lot of things I fear too of just like, am I doing enough when it comes to the work? Am I like, where do I need to prove myself? Like, these are a lot of the conditioned beliefs that I'm working on, kind of working through. And then also just like, what legacy do I want to leave in this world? I've had this book swirling in my mind, and it's like the fear of like, oh, okay, I'm going to put this out there. Like, what are people going to think? And I think there's like two things that keep me going because I'm generally a more positive person, and I think one is um, courage isn't necessarily doing something in the absence of fear. Courage is more doing it alongside the fear and almost kind of like knowing that it's there. And I think about it, I really love that I have my son because it's like I almost think of myself as like a little child of like, okay, I'm going to hold your hand while we do it. And I'm going to like give you the grace as you're beginning and knowing that this is new and it's okay to fall. It's okay to feel. It's okay to have big feelings about it.
Yeah.
And actually that's amazing because courage helps us to feel those feelings while still taking one step in front of the other. And I think allowing myself that grace while practicing the courage and acknowledging that fear is a healthy thing. Like there are
Mhm.
no good or bad emotions. And when we learn to sit with them and allow them to pass and kind of, honestly, I think being a parent has been one of my biggest teachers.
Yeah.
So as I'm going on this journey, it's like, yeah, I am doing great. Yes, like there are things that I'm accomplishing. And we were talking about this even before. It's like, taking it literally hour by hour, step by step. And it's like, okay, well, this one I didn't feel that great. That's okay. I love the card that we like started off with at the beginning of just like reminding ourselves that we're not alone.
Mhm.
Like, and we have these wings that were made to help us carry us forward. For me, as we're building these new systems and figuring out next steps in ambiguity and uncertainty, we have to feel really rooted in what we want to be, how we want to be, what we want to build.
Jade, I'm so grateful for you after all these years. Every time I talk with you, I literally, now I'm glad I'm recording it because for so many years I didn't record it. And I'm like, what did Jade say? So now, not only I get to walk away with all these amazing insights, but my community and people in your community as well. Because again, these insights aren't just words, they truly do shift our energy and mindset, and they are really powerful. If we keep doing the same things or just staying stuck, if we're in that stuck spot,
Yeah.
but I'm too scared to go anywhere, well, you're going to stay there. But the best parts are when you try to get out and you try to move forward and you're getting through that tough moment. It's these little moments of understanding the little things we can do. What are the systems?
Yeah.
What can we do to help again move through that fear? I can't wait for your book to come out. And I'm such a big fan of you as just a human, a friend, a mom, and a leader. I'm so excited for my community and yours to listen to this.
It's just like the reframe, like you said, of like, how can you find the lessons in every situation that you're in? And how can you bring joy into even maybe the darkest moments? Because that kind of also, we don't know the heights of joy we can experience without the depths of the other feelings. That is the full spectrum of the human experience. And yeah, like how do we build systems for ourselves so that we feel rooted and resourced? And how do we build systems with others so that we can support each other and build a community, a life, a new way of living, new belief systems that are going to be like healthier for everybody.
Thank you, Jade. You are just the best. And part 2, 3 are coming, and your book as well.
There's someone out there who can benefit from your wisdom, which is why I also like really appreciate that you are doing this podcast and sharing all these voices. And I love that we get to experience each other in all of these new phases of our lives and kind of like these rebirths of who we are. And I appreciate you connecting with me and allowing me to share the things that are on my mind too.
You're welcome. I'm so excited for everything. And yes, it's when you put those things out there and speak to it as if it's not a if this happens, it's when. It's so powerful. And I think we've experienced that. So thank you, Jade. You're the best.